Welcome to the Network Build Grow podcast, the show where business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals share their stories, lessons learned, and powerful strategies for building relationships and growing their circle of influence. With Melissa Taylor, your host, each week we'll bring you actionable insights to help you build a better network and a better business. Let's dive in.
Well, good day. We are excited today to have Melinda McVaden with us on the podcast. Hello, Melinda. How are you?
Hello, Melissa. I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we are excited to have you. So before we dive into some of the kind of best relationship building practices, first tell us a little bit about Mojo Brand Magic.
I know. Mojo Brand Magic is really based on putting the magic of you into your brand. Because we know that people may need your services, they may even want your services, but ultimately they buy you. So how do you get a leg up, if you will, and have them get to know you before they ever really know you or even meet you? That's what we do. And then you end up standing out in the marketplace for who you are.
Gotcha. So now you didn't always do this type of work. I think that you did a lot of grant writing before for nonprofits and things.
I did, yes, had a whole separate business where we did grant writing, we did fundraising, we did board development, we did assisted organizations in board recruitment, assisted them in establishing policies and procedures and sort of all the ins and outs of running a nonprofit organization. And then prior to that, yes, it does take magic, and especially fundraising time, it requires a lot of magic. Pixie dust, whatever you could get your hands on. And then before that, I was a television news broadcaster. So,
So your entire career, you've been telling stories.
My entire career, I have been telling stories and really connecting with people. And broadcasting is much the same way. You connect with people. Your whole goal is to connect with your audience, but you also need to connect with people to tell those stories.
Mm-hmm. And that's what branding is connecting with people.
All about branding.
Yeah,
for sure.
So now you do it a little bit different. And actually, until I met you, I didn't really know much about it. You do what's called, part of your process is to have people figure out what their archetype is.
Yes.
How did you get into that?
I was desperate. not so much desperate for that, but in my own case, in my own life, we had this company that I just talked about working with nonprofits, and we were so doing really, really well. And then, and in the process, made just about every mistake a business owner can make, I think. And we were sailing along until one day we had worked ourselves into two really great clients who decided to complete their work with us within 2 weeks of each other. And so we were looking at a empty calendar and a dwindling bank account. And
you hadn't been doing marketing probably in years.
None. It had all been word of mouth. It had all been many of the clients that we got were actually what I would call like third party, like someone we knew someone we had no idea, didn't even know they were looking. And then they would say, well, my mother's friend told me that you all did this. And then that would be how we got our clients. So we didn't have a good marketing scheme. We didn't have a sales pipeline at all. Didn't even really think about that as something you do. And yet here we were coaching nonprofits to have their donors and to know their donors and identify the donors, but we didn't do that for ourselves. And so when I started looking at marketing, I just could not get my hands around it. There was so much out there. Use these 25 words and you will certainly attract clients. Or it would be, this is a 2-year process and it'll be worth it. And I was like, I don't have that much in the bank account.
Or that much time.
Or that much time, exactly. And then I came across this whole idea of connecting, learning about how you connect with people is what I really started to learn. And then I came across this whole idea of archetypes and just fell in love with it because it was so affirming. I could market the way that I talk. I could market the way that I do things. I could market the way that I am.
Mhm.
And most everything else was about a system or having that perfect avatar that meant you didn't have to do much but find that avatar and you would have tons of clients. This way I could do marketing. This way I could be consistent with it. I could follow some of the rules that really lead to success. Consistency, clarity,
Mhm.
information that engages,
Mhm.
that I could do in my own style.
That's great. So that really also frees you up to network differently because you don't have to
Absolutely.
be someone you're not or put a mask on or have the perfect elevator pitch or any of those things. So how has this whole concept really played into your networking?
I talk differently. I present differently. I was at an event this morning, networking event this morning, actually.
Mhm.
And I said, people kept saying, well, what is it you do? And I said, well, I put the magic of you and your brand. And then I said to one person, do you know what your magic is? And they don't.
Right.
And I said, that's what we help you find. And from there, we can take you to a brand that will have you stand out because of who you are, because your expertise and your skills are not enough anymore.
Yeah, it's because of who you are, not because of what you do.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And the way you interact with people, because we all know that we don't all interact the same way with people. We're
Mhm.
not all comfortable interacting the same way. We have our
Right.
own styles. And there are people who really want those different styles. And archetypes are what I kind of like to, sometimes I think of them as the photos on the wall. When you see the archetype, you recognize that person. You walk in your house in the photo and you know who that is. And archetypes are like that. We may have some sense of our own personalities,
Mhm.
but describing them to people is not so easy. But if you tend to be a rebel, then be a rebel. It's not like people don't know what that is. They
Right. Harley
recognize
Davidson, I think, is a rebel, right?
very much so. Very much so. Think of leather jackets. Think of open road. Think of lots of black. Think of the rules don't apply to me. Those kinds of things. Or perhaps you naturally take care of people. Like your friends are always saying something to you like, you should think about yourself a little more. Well, you need to take care of yourself. And you're like, no, I got other people need something. Other people need me. Those are natural ways that people behave. So when they start being that, they don't have to be somebody different to market themselves. They can market themselves that way. And I know a
So
guy
somebody like that, just not to interrupt you, but to bring that back to networking, like someone who is kind of that caretaker
Mhm.
would go to a networking event and not feel like they have to become this like me, extroverty kind of person. They
Exactly.
just be the caretaker that they are and present themselves that way
And
in like a
present
networking
themselves that way.
situation.
You know, if you are somebody who likes to take care of people, you can market yourself as we will hold your hand through this, difficult process, or
Mhm.
we will take care of all these aspects so you can focus on this. Was very much a caretaker. And
Mhm.
there are people out there who, as soon as they looking for those skills, looking for that particular business, and as soon as they hear that, they're like, that's what I need. That's
That's
exactly
what I
what I
need.
need.
Right.
Or somebody else can market themselves and say, no fluff, no long calls, just numbers and facts. "Oh, that's me," says a certain businessman or woman. I need that. I don't need people to worry about how I feel about this. I need
So you
people to
have
tell
to
me
attract the type of people that you actually want to work with.
that you actually want to work with, and the ones where you all are suited. And the reverse side of that is, if you get somebody who isn't really a good match, you can stop second guessing yourself and stop wondering what you're doing wrong and wondering why you can't connect with this person. And you can look at that and say, you need a different type of person to do this. and I have a couple of people I can refer you to that I think will make you really happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can let them go and not torture yourself that somehow you weren't able to satisfy this customer.
Mm-hmm.
Something you did was wrong.
So that's an interesting point there. And it brings us back to relationship building. A lot of people go to networking events looking for clients, looking for referrals, and that kind of thing. But in that case, you actually need to look for people that do exactly what you do, but in a different way. So that if you have somebody come along that doesn't like the way or doesn't connect with you, you can still be of service to them, which still leaves you in a good light.
Definitely.
For your reputation. So that's another part of networking.
Your client will appreciate it. The person who gets
your client, you give it to somebody else, but
right. But if it's your client, you give it to somebody else. That client will appreciate you. Will think better of you. Will say better things about you. Certainly, the person who gets a referral will think better of you, and you will have a whole lot more energy because you're not so upset and worried and concerned about what you're missing with this client. And then you can turn all that energy back to somebody who's about ready to say, you're exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And then that person that you just gave the referral to, they're bound to find somebody along the line that doesn't match them.
Exactly.
And then they'll reciprocate back to you. So tell me about your networking. How big of a part has it played in all the things that you've done? So going from being a broadcaster into the grant writing and the nonprofit work, and then now with Mojo Brand Magic, how has networking played a part in all of that?
It is critical to all of it. It's done a little bit differently in broadcasting. Networking in broadcasting often comes out to the public as sources tell us. And there's usually actually people behind those. I think that's what people may wonder sometimes. Is that just a term that is made up?
Yeah.
It isn't really. It is a term, and there may be at times in my career there was one person who was a sources, and others it would be 2 or 3 or 4 people, and I was doing that intentionally to keep them from being known or be able to be isolated as a source of information. And so you could say it that way, but it's also just in terms of, if you think about it in terms of television personalities, and they show up at events, and you'll see, local anchors emceeing events, fundraising events, or perhaps parades, holiday parades, or they're at some big celebration where they are a central figure of it. So that part of networking is for viewership. It's to engage people in the station or community. Yeah. And also to build community, and also to engage people in becoming part of the community. So there's a whole thing there. Definitely networking is a big part of fundraising. And a lot of that is helping other people feel comfortable with fundraising and with networking. So when you're working like I was for several organizations, you'd be surprised how many people. I had to always remind people, there's no such thing as a fundraising gene. Nobody can go in and say, could you please take out this fundraising gene, or please insert this fundraising gene of me? There isn't one. It's all based on networking. It's all based on you getting in touch with why you're passionate about something. And then you go and talk to people and say, and don't forget to say, if you know anybody you think would really like to hear about this organization, please let me know. And then you do the same kinds of things. And so there's, and there was a particular fundraising system that we really tried to encourage all nonprofits to use, because it was all relationship based. It was all based on finding people who believe in your mission. And then those people are naturally passionate and will talk to other people about it. And so you could promote something because of your passion, not because you're driven to, quote, make the sale or get the donation, so to speak. So sales and fundraising have a lot in common. Yeah.
And now with Mojo Brand Magic, how important is networking?
It's everything.
It's everything.
Okay, it's everything. I know that we live in a world of automation, and there's a great place for that. and it can help your networking. But you can't, in my view, you can't replace that personal connection where somebody can place you somewhere at an event with a face. And I try to I try to look at it, because everybody has those days when they just don't want to roll out of bed and go do that. But I try to look at it. This is how I stay connected. This is how I am able to help people. If I'm not out there, they don't know what I have and they can't get the help that they need. And that's really what drives me, is this makes your marketing so much easier, so much more natural, and so much more fun and effective. And you can spend way less time worrying about it.
Yeah, that's great.
If you network for your business, you already know follow-up is everything when it comes to growing relationships and driving success. But here's the thing. Most of us want to follow up well. We just get stuck. Staying consistent, keeping it personal, making it stand out, it's hard. That's why I use NetEffect.io. It makes follow-up simple, cuts through all the noise, and helps me stay on top of every relationship without dropping the ball. I never miss a follow-up, and honestly, my network wouldn't be the same without it. So check it out, NetEffect.io. And right now, you can use promo code NBG50 for 50% off of your first month. NetEffect.io, your secret weapon to unforgettable follow-up.
So tell me, when we talk about networking events and networking as a lifestyle, how do you kind of define networking?
It's almost like a get to know you, if you will. But for me, networking is really, I am amazed at the number of people that are out there. I'm amazed at the number of people who are starting small businesses. I'm amazed at the different things that people are doing. Mm-hmm. And so it's like kind of a combination of getting to know people and being the detective, like, what is happening here? What are the things that people are talking about? What are the what motivates people? Because sometimes that will certainly help me in talking to people about my business, but it also gives you just a sense of what are people struggling with. Because if you don't know that as a business owner, you can't, in my view, you can't begin to you can't really begin to help people if you can't begin to listen and hear what they're struggling with.
Yeah, so you use networking kind of as a detective a little bit.
Kind of like a detective to look at it, and as a way to create some community, because so many of us are still looking for community. I mean, Charlotte's a great city, but it's big. It's really big. And where's the community where I can go and feel like they understand some of my challenges, and they feel like they are ready and want to help, and they have an avenue for it. It's one of the reasons I love the huddle so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So speaking of like the actual events, what is one really like main practice that you do when you go to an event? What's something that you consistently do every time you go to an event?
I try to ask one of these two questions. How can I help you? Or what's one thing you would like me to know about you?
Ooh, I like that.
And I try to do that because I think I try to ask people questions that they can answer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know it sounds funny, but I mean that in a way that this is something that isn't asked every networking place they go to, which is, what do you do? And so on. And there's a place for that. I don't mean to say you shouldn't ask that question, but you just have a moment to get present to something about yourself that you would like people to know. This is an opportunity for that. And often I can think of things that's connected to, or how does that, sometimes the follow-up question is, well, tell me how that shows up in your business.
Oh, good.
And then they'll tell me that, or they'll say, that's a good question, I don't really know. Or they'll say, I want to think about that, because they are really putting all those particular elements together at that moment in that event.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. So when you think about when you leave an event, like what do you do to make sure that those relationships that you started can kind of continue on?
Well, I'm better some days than others at this, but I do try to, I am actually using a new system to put people's names in. I try to make notes on cards when I leave. Like today I wrote down, I invited this woman to another event, and I wrote on her card, send an email reminder of this event. So I'll do that. So I try to make little notes on cards, and I put the names into the system that I have called Net Effect, is it sends me reminders.
That's one of our sponsors. That's
yes.
Our sponsor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I send them. I love that app. I'm still using in its infancy with using it, but I really love it because it's not complicated. It helps you write emails. It's easy to fill in, and it doesn't. It's not as complex as some other. Mm-hmm. It's not really a CRM, but it's not as complex as some other CRMs or other networking tools out there. So you feel like you can use it and get it done more. I do feel like I can use it and get it done more quickly.
Good.
But I try to do that. And then the other thing I do try to do is if I'm going, for example, I'll put down where did I meet them. Mm. So I might have met somebody at a chamber coffee, or I might have met something at a Network Will Grow event, or I might have met someone at a conference that I'm attending, and I will put where I've met them and maybe a little bit about what we talked about, just to make sure that I have some place besides my memory to go and look at this. And it works most of the time. Every now and then I get caught, but
I do the same thing. I actually, when I leave an event, I actually sit in my car for like 5 or 10 minutes and try to make just notes, red sweater, we talked about dogs, or whatever, so that I can just like get it out on paper, so that when I get back to my system, I don't forget some of those little details because they're so important.
Well, and I have gotten also to the point where I still use business cards. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. A lot of people like to use digital cards.
Which I can't make notes on those.
I can't make notes on that. And some of them don't have their pictures. And so I see these names and I don't remember when I've talked to 15, 20 people or whatever. I don't remember what they look like necessarily.
Yeah.
And if I were, I could take your example and I could use it. If I were a sketch artist, I could do that. Sit in my car and say, this is what they look like. Yeah. But I really have to do some research, and I end up doing research on those because I can't remember necessarily who they are. So I do love to make notes like that, and I do think that helps me both for the individuals, but it also helps me in the event itself because I'm making mental notes of things that I want to write down, and of course I don't capture all of them all the time, but I think it really kind of helps me mentally take stock of what is it that I connected with this person about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's a place for digital cards. I have a digital card. I have a link tree. I have all the gadgets, right? All the things. But I was actually at an event not too long ago, and we were in a big conference center, and there was no cell service inside the building. So people couldn't use their digital cards because there was no cell service. Because it was just big concrete buildings. So you got to be careful, when you have something like that, you got to make sure that you have capabilities of getting it to people. So, all right, last thing, I just want to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. So first thing that pops into your mind, ready?
Sure.
Okay. Number one common mistake you think people make networking?
I think the number one mistake people make is they don't stop and listen. I think it's real easy to get nervous, especially if you're not used to it, and you talk or you feel like you haven't quite said what it was you meant to say. And I think you can get a lot further along with just listening and asking questions.
Mhm.
You have to watch yourself. You do have to say something about yourself at some point, but I think it's easy to get swept up in a conversation and forget to just listen and take it in.
Yeah. Listen and take it in. That's a great point. Okay, last one, and then I'll let you go. When you want to really decide, or how many times do you think is good to go to a particular group in order to really feel like you've explored it to see if it's a good fit for you?
Okay, now you're going to get the sage archetype in me.
Yeah.
I do a lot. I do research. I do. I look at what's an average number of members or average attendance, and I look at what is my intention here. For example, and I'll use Network Build Grow as an example. There's great networking there. But there's so many other things there. There's the speakers that come. There are the huddles. That one has become a top priority because of all the other benefits that come along with the networking. The
business building kind
and
of
the business,
benefit.
exactly. And the people who, frankly, where have you been? So if you find a group, I do think that there are, I guess what I'm trying to say is evaluate the group based on what you want to get from that group. Like one group may be a community, which I think of as more like Network Build Grow is a community. And if I don't show up, people will say, where have you been? And so then which can sometimes happen when you're struggling or when you get really busy and you need that reminder, I still need to be out there networking. And then there are others that may be more suited to a particular group of clientele you want to reach. So I'm kind of investigating that as well. When you look at who is the market you think is most interested in what you have to offer.
And that might be an association or something like that.
Exactly. Not just your typical network group.
Right. That's when you start to get into like going to a particular association that you want to target.
Exactly. And I think that but I think from my research across the board on marketing, on networking, on sales, you're looking in at least 12 to 15 months of attending something before you can really evaluate it. And certainly close of business could be one factor of your evaluation.
But it's not the only one.
No. And I think you should prepare yourself. Like, what are you going for? Like I've gone to networking events and said, today my target is to practice what I say about myself. And get people's responses and reactions and see. Is
market research.
Exactly.
Use it for market research.
I'm using it for market research that day. Others I've gone to and say, I want to see who attends this on a regular basis. And so my questions become a little different. Well, how often do you come to these coffees or how often are you at these events? So you can use them. They're great research ground. Right. But I think that's how you begin to evaluate a group based on what it is you are trying to do at any given moment, I think.
Right.
As long as, and I would say one last thing I would say is, and then have a good core group.
Yeah.
Have a good core group that knows you and you know them.
And keeps your feet to the fire.
Well, this is true too.
All right. Well, thanks for being with us today, Melinda.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Network Build Grow podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur or professional. And of course, if you're not yet part of our community, visit networkbuildgrow.com to connect with us. Until next time, keep building and keep growing.